Good morning. It's Alana with Divine Essence Coaching, author of Finding Your Own Happy, The Soul Searcher's Guide to Peace and Happiness in Everyday Life. And I'm here every Wednesday, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, to have unusual conversations about mental health and happiness. And today is no exception. Often I have guests on the show. Today I am flying solo, talking myself, here to answer your questions, hear your thoughts and musings, and have a conversation that maybe is not happening so often about mental health and happiness. So welcome here, and a little bit about me. So I wrote this book called Finding Your Own Happy, The Soul Searcher's Guide to Peace and Happiness in Everyday Life, because after years, decades of soul searching, personal development, working on my stuff, trying to figure out what I was missing to really accessing happiness in my life, I just still wasn't really that happy, and sometimes very unhappy, to the point of like, I'm not sure I want to be on planet Earth anymore. And I just decided, you know what, there's got to be a different way. Something's got to give. I got to get to the other side of this. And so I went sort of on my own exploratory journey to figure out what I had really been missing that nobody else seemed to be talking about that could make a real and lasting difference in my life. And my book is a response in some ways to that to that question of like, what am I missing? Why am I so different? Why do the things that seem to work so well for other people not really seem to work that well for me? And what can I do different that is going to make a real difference in my life? And I started to discover some things that really did make a real difference and showed me that there are some ways out of those heavinesses, those depressions, those suicidal ideations even, that that not a lot of people are talking about, and that I wanted to talk about because I see other people who also struggle with depression, with suicidality, with feeling like maybe they're crazy, with wondering what's wrong with them, what they don't get, or just feeling like, gosh, there's got to be something more to life than this, and I just don't get what I'm not getting. That was certainly me. And even that feeling of, and I've talked to other people that have this feeling too, of like, wow, like, stop the planet, I want to get off because this makes no sense to me and I don't know what to do here, and I'm just tired. So if that's you at all, I highly recommend you pick up a copy of my book. You can get a free copy at findingyourownhappybook.com, and that will give you some of the insights, tools, resources, etc., that really made a difference in my life. And so today I want to talk a little bit about what some of the things are that I felt like were missing, that have been missing from the conversation, that no one else really has articulated in a way that I found that could really work for me and really work for the clients that I serve. So there's a lot of different layers to this. And in my book, I talk about how it wasn't really one thing that made the ultimate difference. It was a combination of a bunch of things coming together and understanding how those things work together that could really shift and change perspective and change my life. But one of the very most essential things that I think a lot of practices, a lot of healing modalities are missing is, what if you're way more aware and empathic and sensitive of other people and other people's energy and other people's experience than you've ever given yourself credit for? What if some of that heaviness, some of that craziness, some of all that energy that shows up in your life that makes you feel unhappy is actually not yours? Can you get around a sad person and feel sad? Can you be affected by other people's emotions even when they're not physically present? Now, after decades of wondering why I was still so sad and heavy and depressed and struggling, one of the things that really made a difference for me and that I realized is that I feel a lot of what other people feel. And I hadn't really been acknowledging it, and I hadn't really understood that. And so could that be true for you too? Is some of what you go through actually your sensitivity to the world around you, the sensitivity to other people's feelings, the sensitivity to, we'll just call them energies. Like life is energy. You know, you can tell when someone's just had a fight, there's an energy there that you feel. You can tell when your friend is sad without them saying anything. That's sort of what I mean by energies. You get a sense of the um, what it feels like to be around certain people. And if you're super sensitive, you might not know that's you, and you just wonder, like, why do I feel so weird all the time? Why do I feel so twisted up all the time? And the thing about that is that if you go to therapy, let's just say, or some other space to look for healing on your stuff and your issues, but it's not really your stuff and it's not really your issues. It's actually you feeling into everyone else. The results that you're going to get are going to be very different and maybe not very effective. Because if you're always looking for what is it in me that's creating this experience, what is it in me that I need to fix or change or heal or resolve, you're going to wonder, well, I've already looked all of these places. How come it's still not making that big of a difference for you? And that the how come is that you can't fix, solve, heal, resolve something that didn't belong to you. It's just something that you're aware of. It's just something that you're sensing. And if you don't really get that, if you don't really understand that, then you're always going to have more content. The next time you get around a sad person, you're going to start to feel sad again and wonder, why can't I be happy? What am I missing? What's my problem? And so for me, this was the number one realization and understanding about myself, and also realization and understanding I see for so many of the people I meet who are also struggling, feeling like this world doesn't make sense. I don't get it. It's right. It doesn't make sense because you have defined your experience as all having to do with you and everything having to do with you, when really you're a much more sensitive, aware, empathetic, empathic being than you've ever really been willing to acknowledge. Now, so the first step is really understanding how to acknowledge that. And I'll actually put some links below that are relevant to this topic, relevant to understanding what is yours and what's not, and how to work with it so that you can start to separate out, this is me, this is someone else. Like even recently, I've been feeling a lot of grief, and it's been intense, but it doesn't take me to the place that it used to, because I know that it's not mine. I know that I'm feeling into someone else's energy and somebody else's reality, and then to shift it, to move it, to work with it so it doesn't have to impact me so heavily, it doesn't have to affect me so intensely. And as I do that, that really helps me shift my experience. So the first step is really to understand what that experience is and how to work with it. So first of all, to identify what is yours, what is not, and how much are you mixing up the two, and how much is the heaviness, the insanity, the craziness, the depression, actually the effects of other people. Now, another way that sort of the energy of other people shows up in your life is the stories that people have told you, the beliefs that you've taken on about yourself from other people. Is sometimes the self-criticism in your head, is that even yours, or is that something that your mom said to you repeatedly, and that you sort of bought and took in as yours and internalized as yours? And what if you could give that back? What if it didn't have to be so internalized? So as we learn to separate out what's ours and what's not, we can find a greater sense of peace, of sanity, of happiness, of well-being. And then the next layer is sort of learning how to work with everything that you're aware of. So when I first got like, oh, actually, Alana, you're incredibly empathic, and you get around certain people and wow, you feel like a wreck because you're feeling everything that's going on. Or you walk into a room and like, oh my gosh, why do I have social anxiety? What's wrong with me? What is all my problems? It's like, wow, no, I'm just feeling everything that's happening in this room and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to process it. So the first step is knowing that it wasn't mine. But then the second step was learning how to process it and work with it and understand what that is, and not just, sometimes just knowing that that's what's going on is not enough. It still can be overwhelming. It can still be totally confusing and mix you up incredibly. So the next level is really learning how to work with it, which is a lot of what I teach and share in my work and in my coaching programs, is how to really work with your own energy and understand who you are and what is truly you and what's everybody else, and how to separate yourself out so that you can have real peace and happiness in your life. And that's also, there's many other things I cover in the book, including issues like childhood trauma and uh, emotional well-being, looking at some of your past, looking at some of the internalized mechanisms that are going on. But a large part of it is really identifying what is yours and what's not, and how to tell the difference. So if you haven't picked up a copy of Finding Your Own Happy already, can you see that? That's my lovely book. You can get one at findingyourownhappybook.com, and that walks you through a whole bunch of different tools that you can use to start working out these pieces and understanding what those differences are. And if you're ready for some assistance or help in another level, let's say you've read my book and you're like, okay, that's well and great, but how do I apply the stuff? Then, and happy to be happy to jump on a call with you and walk you through some of that and look at, like, what are your best resources? What are your best options for really identifying the pieces that maybe are still keeping you stuck, maybe are still keeping you from getting to that place where happiness feels like it's easy for you, feels like it's your natural state of being, and sort of shift you, give you some of the key tools and keys that are going to help unlock you and shift you into that place where you can actually really just operate more from a place of ease, joy, happiness, and well-being. And I'd love to know if you have any questions, thoughts. I'm here every week to have these conversations, talk about the things that really make it possible to shift out of some of the kind of harder places that we go in life, some of the harder states of being, and into that place of happiness, joy, peace, freedom. I've literally been curled up in a ball, not wanting to move, not wanting to get out of bed, and been able to shift that and change that with the tools that I work with understanding what's mine and what's not, with getting to the heart of what's really going on for me, and moving myself out of some really dark places into light and joy. And so if you are in a dark place, if you're struggling with some things, then I know that something else can be possible. It is possible to shift those places. And, like, I mean, I'm always amazed actually at how quickly I can go from being in a fairly dark, contracted place to finding my way out to the other side and to a place where I feel good again. And I just love this work so much because I know the power that it has to shift those places and to bring us back really to having our own happy, and to what I think is our natural way of being, our natural state of being, which is that true happiness and joy in yourself. So since it's just me talking, it's going to be a quick one today, but thanks for watching now or later, tuning in, and come back next week for another conversation on finding your unhappy, unusual conversations on mental health and happiness. And let me know in the meantime if you have any thoughts or questions, anything I can help you with, anything that you're wondering about that I might be able to shed some light on. And again, thanks for being here, and I'll talk to you again soon. And bye for now.